There's so many episodes of Gumball that are chaotic, but this one might be in the top 10. 3 words: dodge or dare. Roll the dice, pick a card. What could be so dangerous about that?
The floor is now red-hot lava.
I actually felt that through 6 pairs of shoes! It started!
But pause, we're not there yet. The rabbit hole goes further than the game this episode of the Search for the Best I'm covering, as Dodge or Dare has been seen first in the 3rd when Gumball and Darwin try to play it but get bored of it very quickly, the robot when Darwin plays it with Gumball, or really just Bobbert, although he didn't know that at the time, the ape where Miss Simian plays the game but realizes that there are a lot of cards that are tailored towards making her life worse, and the car where they finally get to play the game for a second.
The card says no hands. Ugh.
All of these examples are in Season 1, and besides the cameos within the Colossus and the Nobody, we don't know much about the game until now, with the game. As you see, the title is pretty redundant here. Apparently, sometime between the car and the game, Gumball and Darwin have stopped playing Dodge or Dare, and we'll get into the reason why. When cleaning out Gumball's room, we get all of the hashtag relatable things that are typically under beds: sentient food, concussions, and dead bodies.
Darwin the First? So that's where you were hiding.
Wait, I thought you said that Darwin the First left to live a happier life on a farm with other fishes.
He did. He did.
When you realize that Richard and Gumball have slaughtered more fish than the one found underneath Gumball's bed, this is actually the least offensive thing that they found underneath their bed so far. Also, within the origins, given that the prior Darwins were flushed down the toilet, there is some inconsistency here and there, but it's funny, so it works. The episode throws a lot of jokes in the beginning, which is classic Gumball. To get their minds off of it, Nicole finds a board game underneath Gumball's bed. When you look at it, it sounds very amateur and non-threatening. I mean, look at the name, Duje Odar. I sound like I just added 3 mana points to my next turn. However, this game is no laughing matter, as Gumball has to snap Darwin out of wanting to play the game for their own good. The game definitely calls for their attention though.
To destroy that game.
Anything that makes a sound effect that sounds like the brass impact from Inception should be murdered. I agree. One interesting aspect about the episode visually that grabbed my attention is that given that this is Season 2, we get the ovular eyes, but I didn't realize how seamless they've made the switch between their older eyes and what would be their newer eyes, the circular ones, and that you wouldn't even notice it unless you were actively focusing in on it. Now, I've always been a bigger fan of the older eyes, so it was nice to see, and to those who probably can't watch this episode again without seeing the changes, you're welcome. Gumball and Darwin look in the trash for Alpha J videos, and surprise, there's nothing there. However, they put a pause on that to investigate the board game's call, as the sound now comes from their living room.
Don't throw the dice!
You don't know what you're doing!
Yeah, because you didn't write any instructions.
Now, Richard is suffering from CTE, so he's off the hook. But you know you can also ask the people who made the game. They live with you. They're related to you. Also, instructions. Do you think any gamer reads the instruction manual? Listen, if you're a true gamer, when you got that PS2, PS3, Xbox, GameCube game, and it came with that book, gross. Who reads that nowadays? We threw that out. There was never anything valuable in them, is what I would say to rile up people who are ready to comment about how much they enjoyed instruction manuals. It shouldn't be this easy to troll you guys like that. The pace is golden in this episode, as Gumball and Darwin play straight men to their family's blissful ignorance towards the threat of this game. It also makes sense because they probably associate Gumball and Darwin's panic with maybe embarrassment from making the game or just not wanting anyone else to play their game, but as we'll see, this game gets dangerous, and there's no turning back now.
Okay, so the rules are pretty simple. You roll the dice, then take a dare card. If you do the dare, then you move forward that many spaces. If you don't, then you have to take a dodge card and move half the spaces.
Okay, and how do you win?
You don't win, you survive.
Okay, but how do you actually win?
Oh, you have to roll an exact number to land on the last square.
And you're telling me no one would have wanted this game? I've never understood how Cartoon Network has shows that have PAL cards, Broken Bones, Dodger Dare, and you don't want to make these things into physical or digital items? Even if you sold them in limited quantity, I'm sure you can make bank off of the collectors alone. One thing about this game that is very clear is that they've made the dares of this episode specifically for this episode, which sounds like a no duh, of course it did, but you have to remember that this game was made some time ago, and the only people playing this game would have been Gumball and Darwin. Technically also Bobby, but I don't count that. So earlier within the ape, it made sense that the cards were tailored towards her misery because they don't like Miss Simian. But I do find it hard to imagine that they would have been able to do what Richard does to a donut cop and thus have that on a dare card. And if you don't know, Richard reports a theft to the donut cop, saying that the thief had a monocle and a furry mustache, coincidentally wearing those things as donut cop looks down to take note of it.
Okay, any other distinguishing features?
Yes, he was dressed as a yodeler. Aren't you going to write that down?
Just testing something. And what did that man steal?
A kiss.
Oh my god, rep, we stan. Now I don't take points away from this episode because the cards seem unrealistic for Gumball and Darwin to make, because the show doesn't present itself as one that wants you to understand long-term bits of continuity, at least until the next season. But it would have been fun to know the dares that Gumball and Darwin were doing back then, and also it would have been a cool limitation that would have made writing for them more challenging but also more rewarding. The game starts out with a lot of laughs, with no one taking the game as seriously as Gumball and Darwin. They even bug Larry while he's working his infinite amount of jobs, when Nicole gets a dare card to order a prank pizza.
Pizza guy! What are you talking about? I sell pizzas. Why would I buy one? Well, someone's gotta pay for this. I'm not paying for something I didn't order. What am I supposed to do with this now? Give it to me, I'll show ya! I think all these jobs are messing with my head.
To not add 10 hours to this video psychoanalyzing this scene frame for frame, I do want to speak about Larry as a whole at some point, but I agree. This man wears so many hats that I believe he doesn't even know who he is anymore. Hey man, welcome to the club. I also want to note that this store is located on 420 Grove Street. I don't know, just felt like pointing that out. It seemed like a random number. I wonder what it means. Speaking of mean, Anais gets a dare to wear everything in the home, and this puts her ahead of Nicole, who doesn't like that. This is in the same season as The Fridge, a Nicole-centric episode where she cuts down Anais's accomplishments, and in that episode, Anais found a new strain of bacteria, and that still didn't meet Nicole's level. Technically, she also cuts down the accomplishments of the other family members, but given that I'm speaking about the competitive dynamic that Nicole and Anais have, I felt like it was more important to note that. It doesn't come up too often in the series though. That brings us to where we were before, where after Nicole says that Anais isn't technically wearing everything in the home, such as the couch, she now has a dodge card that makes the floor lava. To be fair, Anais wasn't seen wearing the best-selling merch at alphaj.show/merch, so trial by fire is appropriate.
It's starting! We have to finish the game quickly before it gets a hold of us and destroys us all!
Dude, keep it together.
Get a grip on yourself! You're underreacting!
Thanks, man. I needed that. I got a bit calm for a second, but now I realize how serious this is.
That is the second best joke in this episode, hands down. While the dares are funny, it is when the dodge cards come into play that we see the severity of what's going on. While so comedic, the tension is clearly rising with the music and the reactions from Gumball and Darwin playing a big part in that. Anais is the first one to deal with the raft of dodge cards with the lava floor. One of Darwin's arms is controlled by one of Richard's arms and vice versa. Nicole will severely doubt herself, even against her own will, and Gumball will have compulsive singing disorder. Despite not enjoying these curses, calling them as I see them, it bleeds into their regular lives, despite Gumball and Darwin again saying that you just can't stop playing, you have to finish playing.
Rainbow Complaints Office, how can I help you? This sounds like a very simple problem.
Or is it?
Zip it, you goblin-faced lump! Oh, no, sir, of course I wasn't talking to you. I'm sure you're a very handsome man.
Or is he?
Gonna pop you, you...
Gumball also gets 3 hours of detention for, and this is important, making a joke of global warming. Not for singing in class or anything like that. If I were Gumball, I'd be fighting on the spot. This man eats nothing but grass and sunlight. This would be an easy fight. Darwin and Richard's arms being linked up makes things brutal for them as well, as one wants their arm down and the other wants their arm up. It leads into the worst case scenario for both of them. Well, it could have went worse for Richard, but don't worry, no Reapers will be called today.
Dodge bomb! What's that?
Everyone take a dodge card!
Freeze frame. Does that mean
Ha! See that? See that? And then the opposite happens. You see how it all comes together? It's beautiful. They determine that they must finish the game no matter what obstacles are put in their way. All of them get even worse dodges than they've received before. As the tension builds, you can see how the rest of the family finally understands the true power of Dodge or Dare. And you know, I'd actually want to see where Dodge or Dare would rank in the most powerful elements within Elmore, between things like the Universal Remote or the Cartoon Network shipping book and the helmet hat that stopped all the bad luck. There's a lot of powerful items in Elmore. Maybe that would make for a cool tier list down the line.
Come on, roll the dice!
Gator sheep! I'll have the lamb. I meant chicken! I meant the check!
Now this here is the funniest joke in the episode, all things considered. And if I were to pick a third, Nicole's doubting mini head would be there, because that's also hilarious.
Or is it?
I'll take that as a yes.
Or will?
Yes!
And you want to know the best part? This is such a minor episode in season 2, and it's so good because those first 2 seasons of Gumball are amazing, even if the notable things happen in the show later. They're all determined to land a perfect roll that will finish the game, and things ramp from 100 to 1,000 when they're no longer able to breathe until the game is done. With one more roll, it nearly lands on the wrong number, but Nicole's gamer hands knock it onto the right one.
Yes! We survived! All the effects of the game have been reversed!
Almost.
I think the game is super fun, and although there's the console and the master, the latter dealing with the fantasy role-playing game, it'd be hard for me to gauge what is the best of the 3, but I do know that all of them are good in their own way. With 2 spots left, what else should I cover in the search for the best? Let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, take care. Alpha out.